Direct News TV. November 28, 2023. Israel-Hamas war live, more Palestinian prisoners, Israeli captives freed. 30 Palestinian women and children have been released from Israeli prisons after 10 Israelis and 2 foreign nationals were freed from Gaza. Palestinians in Gaza express hope that Israel-Hamas truce will be extended further as they seek out much-needed aid, assess the destruction from Israeli bombardments. Israel receives list of next captives to be released in Gaza. Israeli news outlets are reporting that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office has received the list of names. A sixth group of captives is expected to be freed on Wednesday as part of the Gaza truce deal, in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. Citing Netanyahu's office, Israel's public broadcaster also said notices were sent to the families of the captives expected to be released. A Qatari foreign ministry spokesman said earlier this week that the deal stipulates that for every day the truce is extended, 10 Israeli captives would be released in exchange for 30 Palestinian prisoners. Talks are underway for a possible extension beyond Thursday. Update on Israeli military raid in Jenin. Al Jazeera's Hamda Salhat is bringing us more details on the Israeli raid in Jenin. Israeli forces have closed off the city and set up military checkpoints on all approach routes. Hundreds of Israeli soldiers are involved in the raid, supported by more than 50 armored vehicles, including bulldozers, which have torn up roads. Armed clashes are ongoing between Israeli forces and Palestinian fighters. At least 8 people have been injured by the Israeli military and the number of casualties is expected to rise. U.S. lawmaker Rashida Tlaib calls for release of all captives, Palestinian political prisoners. The Palestinian-American congresswoman has asked her colleagues to join her on the call. Every innocent civilian should be released and reunited with their family, no matter their faith or ethnicity, Tlaib said in a statement posted to X. She also asked why other U.S. lawmakers who have urged the release of captives held in Gaza had not made similar calls about Palestinians. Failure to do so demonstrates their refusal to view Palestinians as equal human beings who deserve the same rights, freedom and human dignity, Tlaib said. Palestinian children are often abducted from their homes and then subjected under Israeli apartheid to a separate military judicial system. UN says some food, medical supplies delivered to areas of northern Gaza. The UN's humanitarian agency, OCHA, says while some deliveries reached northern Gaza, most of the assistance was south of Wadi Gaza. That is, where the vast majority of internally displaced persons are staying, UN OCHA said in its daily report on the situation. Meanwhile, COGAT, the Israeli agency that administers the occupied Palestinian territories, reported that 4 trucks carrying diesel and 4 others carrying cooking gas entered Gaza via Egypt on Tuesday. 200 aid trucks from different humanitarian groups also entered the enclave, COGAT said. Gaza war's devastating consequences for Palestinian children. Sham al-Tawil lies in a hospital bed in Gaza, the only survivor of an Israeli attack on her family's home. We were asleep, me, my mum and my sister and my dad by the balcony. When the first rocket hit, my sister screamed and I held my mum tight. Then all the building fell, the 6-year-old, who is suffering from severe burns, tells Al Jazeera. My mum, my dad and my sister are dead, I want to go to them. White House says no evidence Hamas using U.S. captives as leverage. White House spokesman John Kirby has said that there's no indication that Hamas is trying to play some sort of game here in terms of the Americans. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Kirby also said Washington is hoping that more American captives can be released from Gaza. The U.S. government believes 8 to 9 U.S. citizens are still being held in the enclave. We want to see all the hostages out. The way to do that is these pauses, Kirby said. What's planned for International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people? November 29 marks International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, an event officially observed by the United Nations. This year, it comes amid continued calls for a lasting ceasefire in Gaza. Here's a look at some of the events planned. At the UN headquarters in New York, events include the opening of an exhibit called Palestine, a Land with a People, in the visitors' lobby. In Geneva, a special meeting will take place at the UN Palais des Nations at 11 a.m. local time, 10 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time. People around the world can join Ashta Theatre Palestine in online readings of the Gaza monologues. Public performances will also take place in Auckland and London. In Johannesburg, South Africa, a march will take place at 10 a.m. local time, 8 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, with speakers including Michael Mbalula, the Secretary-General of the African National Congress. A march is also planned for midday local time, 6 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Israeli army says captives will return home through ceasefire or continued combat. In a video address posted on the Israeli military's English-language X account, spokesman Daniel Hagari has raised the specter of a return to fighting in Gaza as the Israel-Hamas truce nears its final day. Israeli military and political leaders have repeatedly said they intend to resume fighting in Gaza when the truce expires, but Israel is under growing international pressure to permanently end the war. More than 15,000 people have been killed in the Palestinian enclave since the October 7 raid by Hamas on southern Israel that killed about 1,200 people. Biden post carefully worded but hints at shift, AJ correspondent. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Al Jazeera's Patty Culhane has provided some analysis on U.S. President Joe Biden's social media post this evening. To continue down the path of terror, violence, killing, and war is to give Hamas what they seek. We can't do that, reads the post from Biden, who has so far refused to publicly call for a lasting ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Culhane explained, usually this is how, when it comes to Israel, U.S. politicians subtly change their messaging through social media, through media leaks. She said Biden's post hints that something is shifting, ever so slightly, but shifting. A White House spokesman told reporters this evening that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's upcoming trip to Israel aims to ensure Israeli leaders know they continue to have the support of the United States, that they continue to get the tools and capabilities and weapon systems that they need. Momentum growing for negotiated solution to conflict, analyst Adam Shapiro, the Israel-Palestine Advocacy Director at Democracy for the Arab World Now, says the participation of CIA Director William Burns in talks in Qatar to try to extend the Gaza truce brings added gravitas to those efforts. We know that the talks have proceeded because of the involvement of the CIA Director, who has extensive experience in the region and is well known to leaders and other figures and stakeholders in this process, Shapiro told Al Jazeera. I think that the fact that President Biden has sent him over there indicates a different kind of engagement with the process than what we saw when Secretary of State Antony Blinken and others were involved, he added. However, Shapiro said that despite the momentum, the Biden administration is promoting an unrealistic wish list, hoping it can continue to publicly support Israel unconditionally, advocate for the removal of Hamas from the process and strengthen the Palestinian Authority. All of these things are kind of a wish list. But it is so far from reality, it is so far from what is happening on the ground, for not just years but decades of what this conflict is all about, Shapiro said. Jenin's long history of Palestinian resistance. As we've been reporting, Israeli forces are conducting one of the largest raids in the occupied West Bank since the war in Gaza began, arresting dozens of people in Jenin and the Jenin refugee camp. Both the city and camp have long been symbols of Palestinian resistance. The location of the camp, established shortly after about 750,000 Palestinians were forcibly displaced when the State of Israel was created in 1948, was significant as it was close to the stronghold of the first organized Palestinian resistance against British rule. There are two places in Palestine that Israel has never been able to fully conquer, Jenin and Gaza, Diana Buttu, a Palestinian political analyst and lawyer, told Al Jazeera last year. Explosion, armed clashes reported amid large-scale Israeli military raid on Jenin. We're just getting some news in that there has been an explosion and potentially a drone strike on a house in the Jenin refugee camp, according to locals. Video on my phone shows a large explosion in the central part of the refugee camp. Locals are also saying that the Israelis are carrying out dozens of arrests in the city, not just in the refugee camp. The Israeli military has been surrounding multiple hospitals in Jenin. Additionally, the Palestinian Red Crescent said they were stopped by Israeli forces for about 40 minutes. Then they ended up detaining an injured Palestinian who was shot in the leg, from that ambulance. The significance of them surrounding these hospitals is perhaps that they are looking for injured Palestinian fighters. Remember that Jenin, one of the cities in the occupied West Bank, is regarded as a hub for Palestinian armed resistance. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it.